Easy Elim, Learning Simplified. My name is Ruth, and today we are going to be discussing on the introduction to chemistry. We're going to be looking at apparatus. Previously, we looked at other apparatus that are used in the lab for measuring volume, for measuring mass, for measuring time, and for measuring temperature. So you can go back to the previous videos and watch and get to see how those apparatus function and their uses. As for today, we are going to look at other apparatus in the lab. So we are going to look at all the apparatus that are remaining in the lab, and we're going to specify their uses, and also we are going to look at some of the questions that come in regards to these apparatus. So first you start with the test tube and the boiling tube. I've put them together side by side so that you can be able to see the differences. The test tube is used for general laboratory experiments, while the boiling tube is used for heating substances. They look alike, but the difference is that the test tube is a bit smaller, the boiling tube is a bit larger, and it's a bit harder. The glass is a bit thick in comparison to the test tube. If you try to heat with the test tube in the lab, you notice that the test tube is going to break easily. Unlike for the boiling tube, it's specifically made for heating. So it is used in the cases where you want to heat a small amount of substance, we use the test tube instead. Next, we have the trough. It is used for holding water for experiments, especially collecting gases. You're going to notice this when you're collecting gases and a method called overwater method. It's going to use this method, this trough a lot. And then we have the round bottomed flask and the flat bottomed flask. See the differences between the two. The round has a round bottom, and then the flat has a flat bottom. The round bottom flask it is used for heating. The reason why it is used for heating substances it's because of the round nature. Substances are heated uniformly because the heat is supplied in a uniform manner. Unlike the flat bottomed flask, where it is just used for general lab experiments. It can be used for collecting or for reacting chemicals that do not require heating. But when you require heating, we use mostly the round bottomed flask. We have the filter funnel. The filter funnel is usually used together with a filter paper when we are doing filtration experiments. But if you are delivering liquids carefully, we just use it on its own. So it's also usually used a lot even when we are discussing titration. Next, we have the Visto funnel, separating funnel, and dropping funnel. I've put the three funnels together so that you can see the differences. So the Visto funnel is used for delivering liquid substances, strictly delivering substances. You can see it does not have a lid and it doesn't have a tap. But if you look at the separating funnel, it has a lid and it also has a tap. It is used specifically for separating immiscible liquids. That is its function. And then for the dropping funnels, it's usually used to add controlled amount of liquids into vessels. The reason why it is controlled amount of liquids is because of the tap. And it is similar to the Visto funnel, but the only difference is that this has a tap. You need to be able to see those two differences. Visto funnel does not have a tap, dropping funnel has a tap, and we use the dropping funnel a lot in our experiments, especially if we want to add controlled amount of liquids into a vessel. The separating funnel, on the other hand, it is used for separating immiscible liquids. And some of them usually have this part as a larger part. They have different models that are out there, and there are some that are made that way. Next, we are going to look at the conical flask. We talked about conical flask in the previous video. We said that it is used for measuring approximate volumes. And then also we have a reagent bottle. They can come in different forms. We have the plastic ones, but the glass ones are very common because most of those glass ones do not react with most chemicals, and this is where most of those chemicals are stored. So they are placed on the bench. They are removed from the, especially when we are sharing, they are removed from the bottles they have been bought with, and then transferred into this reagent bottle, so that they can have a easier access to the people using the lab. Then we do have a wash bottle. It is usually used for holding water, for rinsing vessels, and mostly usually put distilled water in them, but also it can hold even the water that is not distilled. And then next we have the teat pipette, evaporating dish, and the spatula. The teat pipette is used to deliver liquids dropwise. It comes in glass form and also in plastic form. And then the evaporating dish, we usually also call it evaporating basin. It is used for evaporating liquids. You place the liquids here and you heat, and then it evaporates. And then the spatula is used for scooping solid substances. When we want small amounts, we use the spatula. We do not want to scoop with our hands. We have the gas jar next, and desiccator and crucible. And the gas jar is used for collecting gases. We are going to discuss on gas collection later, still in this topic, and we are going to note that we are going to be using gas jar for that. So note the difference between desiccator and the crucible. The desiccator is huge, is large, and then it is usually used for keeping or drying or keeping substances free from moisture. It's a bit different from the crucible, because the crucible is used for heating solid substances, which is different from the evaporating dish, which is used for evaporating liquids. This one, it's the ones that require strong heating. If you have a solid substance that requires strong heating, you heat it in the crucible and you close the lid. The desiccator, on the other hand, it just keep things inside there to keep them dry, keep them away from moisture. And then next, we are going to look at these three are used together: the pipe clay triangle, the air gaze, and the tripod stand. The tripod stand is used for supporting. It can support beakers, flasks on anything. But now on this tripod stand, this is where we place the wire mesh on top. So we place it on top, and then we place our beaker on top. This wire mesh helps in distributing that heat. It helps in distributing the heat uniformly. Sometimes, in the case where we are talking about the crucible that is used to heat strong heating, we can't use the wire mesh, it's too big. So we use the pipe clay triangle, but still on the 3 point stand, but it holds now the crucible, because you can see the crucible as a small lower part. Next, we have the mortar and pestle. We have the test tube rack and the defragrating spoon. So the mortar and the pestle is used for crushing substances. If you want substances in powder or in small sizes, we use the mortar and pestle. We have a similar apparatus in the kitchen, but they're usually used for different purposes, and they come also in wooden form. But in the laboratory, it's usually made of glass or porcelain. And then we have the test tube rack, also that can come in wooden or in plastic form. It is usually used for holding test tube and boiling tubes. So this is where they are placed inside these spaces, and it holds them. The defragrating spoon, on the other hand, is used for holding substances that are being burnt. You place the substance in this spoon, and then you heat it, and then we hold it. In some cases, we place it in a beaker, and it closes off using this part of the defragrating spoon. So the gas does not escape, and we get our product at the end of the day. Next, we have the tongs, the test tube holder, and the clamp. And I've put them together because basically they are used for holding substances. So the tongs is usually used to hold hot solids. The test tube holder, which we mentioned in one of the laboratory use, is used for holding test tubes and also boiling tubes. It is made by an adjustable collar here that you can adjust depending on the size of the tube. That is the test tube and the boiling tube. The clamp and the stand is usually also used for holding and supporting pieces of apparatus, not only just one, like in the case of tongs and test tube holder, but many. So you can set up different apparatus they can hold. You don't have to hold them in your hand. So that is the function of the clamp and stand. So the clamp is a clamp, and then there is that stand. And that brings us to the end of the apparatus. So let's look at a question. Identify the following apparatus and give a use for each. So we have the round bottomed flask. So we have the round bottomed flask. We said it is used for heating. The reason why it is used for heating substances is because there's a uniform distribution of heat on the flask. We have the measuring cylinder. The measuring cylinder is used to measure approximate volumes. We have the defraglating spoon. It helps to hold substances that are being burnt. We have the desiccator. In the desiccator, we usually place substances that we want to keep dry or to keep them away from moisture. And then we have the evaporating dish. This is used for evaporating liquids. Note, this is not crucible. Crucible is very specific, and you can see this part of the dish. I know the dish was initially drawn like this, but this is how it looks like in 2D. So the desiccator has a top, and it will always has a top, especially when it's drawn for you. So this is a question. These are the apparatus. Make sure you're able to go back to them again and again because you're going to interact with them in the course of the syllabus. So see you in the next lesson.